everyone. Gosh, this guy's getting hair all over me. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a couple things. Mainly, I want to dissect out of all things, the hero myth in one of the local semi-recent cartoons that we had displayed for us. It's one called Adventure Time. Now, Adventure Time came out before all the woke stuff started to be pushed into the mainstream. Something like that. So, there's no worry about cross genders. There's no worry about homosexuality. Worry. It's just not a thing that was addressed at the time. It was a show on Cartoon Network, and the reason why I want to address this is I kind of want to point out the hero myth and the direct tie to like the masculine and the feminine. I actually took notes today for this one. I was thinking about it because this Adventure Time really hits me hard, and it's something I show my kids, and it brings up conversation points about the myth of the hero and the role of the masculine and the role of the feminine too. And you can find this stuff in like everything you watch. And this is again, if it's not rooted in the stories that are like I would say mythic, then you won't find them interesting. The process of like the hero overcoming adversity, and the masculine and the feminine uniting, and life springing from that. So in Adventure Time, you have the three, or sorry, the two. It is sort of three, but it's two main characters. You have Finn and Jake, and Finn and Jake. The whole person that follows is actually three people, and it's from, I would say it's directly from Freud, because in Freud he describes an individual as the id, the ego, and the superego, and the id is like, it's like he describes it as like the id is the horse, the ego is the rider, and the superego is what guides the rider. So Finn is the ego. Finn rides the horse. Jake is by far the horse. And if you watch the interactions, it doesn't take you much to get to figure this out. You can see that Jake is compelled by his stomach and his urges, and he might be older, but the primal, like he's 26, I think, in the cartoon. Finn's like 11. But that makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, I guess, because the draw to the carnal, or your basic instincts of food, hunger, etc., they exist when they're way older than rationality, than conscious human thought. You can look at it like that. So Finn's a little younger, but Finn has a sense of justice, and the sense of justice was given to him by his father. Joshua was his name, that's it. Joshua was Finn and Jake's dad. Now, Joshua is an interesting name because Joshua means God remembers, and I know this because I met a guy named Josh. He was all tattooed up and pierced and everything, and I'm like, I'm going to figure out what that guy's name means. Oftentimes, if you look up the meaning of people's names, it's a great conversation starter. But it's also like sometimes they don't even know what their name means. Like, it's incredible. We used to name people based on what was going on around us because they wanted that next generation, that's what they'll be dealing with, and that's what they want to overcome, something like that. And that's replete in the biblical stories, also in like every country but like modernized Western Europe, something like that. So anyway, you have Finn, who has the guidance of his dad Joshua. His dad has passed on, and then you have Jake, who's like the horse, but sometimes you have to let the horse drink water, you know what I mean? Sometimes you let the horse go because you need to. That's like the balance of life. Finn actually meets his real dad, and it turns out he's like the polar opposite of the outgoing personality. He doesn't have any, his father, Finn's human father, doesn't have any transcendent perspective. He's all about him. It's all about here, right now, in the moment. But he's also incredibly capable, just like Finn is. So you got those three, or those two. And so Finn has issues with ladies. And it's very interesting interactions with the three female characters that are in it. You have Marceline. Marceline is like forged in the night. She's foreign. She has no loyalty. She has no system, no cycle. Nothing about her needs protecting. She is just overbearing and overwhelming, and she's a monster inside. She's chaotic, and she has a sketchy foundation. So everything about her is just wild and uncontrollable, and that doesn't draw the hero to it, because the idea behind the masculine is you want to protect the feminine. Because with the feminine, all creation and all creativity come from the feminine. And the masculine, if he treats it properly, well, that's how you get life. And you can kind of look at that, you can kind of overlay that as, if you look at the beginning of time when all the laws were established, all laws treat certain things properly. Like the law of magnetism doesn't affect gravity. Well, it does maybe to a point, but it doesn't affect it directly as gravity should. The law of friction doesn't affect I don't know. Like the laws affect what they should affect properly. So if the masculine treats the feminine properly, then life comes from that. And if you look at the fine tuning of the universe, if the universe is treated properly, then you get life from that. You get creation. You get planets, solar systems, stars, everything. You get time itself from light, which is really interesting. So Marceline is a character that Finn just cannot touch, just cannot hold on to. But she's there, and she's tempting for sure, but not something he wants to overcome. Not a potential he can overcome. Flame Princess is a example of a child with adult power. She is innocent. She's naive. She's uncontrollable. She's unforgiving. That's for sure. And she has a very, very young mind. But it's like, this is one of the reasons why I would argue for, taking it back to reality for a second, that people are not naturally good. If you just give a 2-year-old the coordination and body of a 25-year-old, see what they do. You're most violent when you're 2. You figure out you can do things and interact with reality. You push over other kids. You bite. You scratch. People are not naturally good. They start in the sociopathic area, and they don't grow out of it until they're taught to play the correct games with society and with other people. So that's Flame Princess. And so Finn makes a mistake, pretty big one, but there's 0 chance of reconciliation. There was a chance there, and they're just foreign. She's literally made of fire, and she's all-consuming, and she seeks drama. You put it that way. She usurps her father eventually. So that's another feminine character. The last one's Bubblegum. Now, Bubblegum's so interesting because Bubblegum is, like, I would say, the epitome of modern woman. She is told, if you just focus on your work, everything will work out. And she even says that in one of the episodes. She creates the candy people because she can. She has her own agenda. She has no cycles. She doesn't need protected. But she does. She's a princess, and she accepts Finn's offer to help her. But she doesn't use the masculine property. She uses him as a tool. And finally, when he starts to realize the beauty of the feminine, when he gets a little older, she just straight up rejects him. She's just like, no, I just need you to do what you do. Like, that's it. I don't need mastered. So she's also unreachable with her intellect and her age. She's like 1,000. She rejects imperfection. She's proper, mature. She acts the part she is supposed to be. She is her own judge. She is somebody that Finn thinks he can get but cannot, and she will never accept him. And that part of the, like, who knows how the heck Bubblegum and humans attract, right? That's so weird if you think about it. But her role is just that, the controlling woman who is always in power, like the alpha female, who always has a plan, who can't deal with chaos in an appropriate way. Like, she flips out after a while. And she loses her throne because she doesn't pay attention. The king of Oo usurps her in a vote, and then her entire kingdom collapses. And she created the candy people because she didn't want to be alone, but they're all naive, and it's almost like they don't have free will because she didn't give them that freedom. She had to be controlling. So that's the example of, like, the overbearing mother. Like, she won't ever let her children out to play and she created them that way. That's how she wanted them to be. She always wanted someone to mother and to love and to control, and she won't let herself be open to being that as well and being protected. That's the thing about the feminine. The feminine is the gateway of life. She says yes to the masculine proper. If the masculine knows how to take care of himself and her, and he can be proven to do that into the future, women are the gatekeepers of life. They have life literally inside of them. And I think this is intentional. This is something that Joseph Campbell wrote about, like, shortly before he died. But it's the idea of, like, of ritual. Women in general, just due to, like, the menstrual cycle and everything, their duty built into them. Childbearing becomes part of their life, and they know it. Life comes from them, and they grow up quicker than guys do, for sure. Because it's like the whole pain of it and the knowledge of the pain of it in the future is part of their system, and something they just got to deal with. Men, on the other hand, they don't got that. They are stable in structure. They get puberty, sure, but they don't deal with that constant cycle. And I think that's intentional because we're supposed to be the ones that protect at all times. If the feminine is weak or strong, we are supposed to be the barrier between her and chaos, her and absolute, like, destruction, the bad unknown. But what men need is men I think Nietzsche said men seek danger and challenge, danger and adventure, something like that, like authentic danger. Something that's pretty replete in all cultures everywhere, barring like Western America, is the idea of like a ritual that says, okay, now you're a man. Like maybe it's sticking your hand into a beehive or something, or going on a spiritual journey. We don't have that here anymore, and that needs to be like men passed on to other men, and it has to be associated with pain. Usually, I would say all the time, has to be associated with pain or accomplishment or struggle or something like that, something that tests your mettle, because then you know you're a man after that. Well, we don't really have that anymore. And Joseph Campbell pointed this out in Detroit in the 80s. He's like, this is why all the kids are shooting each other right now in their 20s, because there's no ritual to say, okay, now you are strong enough to carry additional responsibility of like a family, of a career, to be an adult, to be presentable. This is also something that was in like back in the Hollywood days. It was if you were caught like being sexually promiscuous, cheating on your husband or wife, and drinking, the press would cover for you and they would say, get your act together. You're somebody people look up to. And then they would go back to it. Because the idea was that's your ideal. You live up to that. Swap that with stuff that's going on now. You get into Hollywood and you're looked at as like, you're not looked at, but you just give out your political opinion. You just throw debauchery out there like it's something to aim for. It's quite different. Things change as we age, and sometimes, well, this is the backlash of the left side, of the feminine going too far, the feminine being unchecked. And it's not even the feminine's fault, really. It's the masculine. It's Adam being silent in the garden. It's the masculine's fault that he doesn't stop her when she's gone too far. So the interesting thing about Finn, going back to Adventure Time, at least I think, is he rescues princesses and people constantly, and they want him, and they want his affection. But he doesn't go after them. This is where he makes a mistake and probably has no model for it either. He goes after things he cannot conquer. He goes after the impossible. Again, things are kind of weird in that universe. But also, everyone that he can save, they're so foreign to him. Like, the only thing that's visually appealing, like another humanoid, are the ones he can't have. It's like a cruel joke that's played on him. But maybe he could. I mean, there's this one episode where he goes into, like, the Pillow Kingdom, which is just so weird. And he gets, like, he has, like, a pillow wife and pillow kids, and he went to a pillow fort to get there. And then he comes back, and he forgets everything that just happened. It's like it was just gone. Just another freaking cat here, dude. Just another life that he lived that's part of his maybe essence anymore. And maybe you have to cast that off, right? There's one point where Finn is distraught that Bubblegum will not accept him. And he is laying on the ground, wallowing. And he's singing a song about it. And it's really, I think, a pretty good song. All the music in that show is really cool. He's singing a song about it because part of him is incomplete. He should be able to go after the feminine, but he doesn't even know how. And she is just outright rejecting him. And that's something that's deep in his psyche, especially in the masculine. But it's the feminine as well. He is the hero. He's supposed to save and protect the damsel. That's what he's supposed to do. Well, he can't do that. Not in the way he wants to. And so that's part of him kind of has to die, because especially that part of him that he believes is part of his growth. So part of him starts to die. This is what we call, I think it's what it's called, a psychological death, or death of the psyche. And everyone goes through this when you like lose a loved one, or you lose an arm, or you lose a job, or you get a divorce. There's so many like layers of a person from top to bottom. Like how many hats you wear, right? I'm a father. I'm also a brother. I'm also a son. And if you lose any of those identities, those are big identities. You got to be careful that when you lose any or all of them, you have to take stock of what's left. This is why it's good to have a spiritual life. One of the mantras that I've always had at least in my life is you must identify, your top tier identification must be something outside of this world. Because anytime you identify with something in this world, you're identifying with death. Because, my muscles will fade, my kids will grow old, I will die, so I won't have them anymore. Money goes away, sexuality, hormones dim. That's just the reality of life. Entropy is going to happen. So unless you're aiming past that, the sting of death is what is drawing nearer to you than you probably want. So, in order to prepare for those giant life changes, like Finn wallowing on the floor, it is good to think about what you could do to change your aim in life, to maybe make the world better past yours, or for your kids, and then past theirs. This is, I believe, one of the reasons why you need to place your faith and your aim in the transcendent. You need to aim something. You need to aim for something way bigger and way higher than yourself. And so Finn didn't really have. I mean, there's a new agey movement in that entire cartoon. It's like he was reincarnated like 3 or 4 times. Well, that doesn't fly with me. So I'm not taking that into context, because if all is one, then why do anything? If all is just one, there's no difference between anything. So why do you need to forgive? Why do you need to like? But then out of that New Age movement, all is one, the giant cyclical karmic system. You also get the caste system out of the Hindu beliefs. So that's like a walking contradiction. I think the more you talk with people who are philosophically consistent, the less they'll talk about karma, because it all self corrects anyway at the end, so it doesn't really matter. So anyway, I just want to talk about Finn and the death of the psyche and the hero's journey that's in there, and the dealing with the masculine and the feminine. I thought that was quite fascinating. We're still watching the show. It's like my third time watching it, but I have 2 kids, so I watched it myself once with my wife, I think. Watched it again with my first daughter, watching it again, but because my first daughter forgets it and my other one's 6. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Try to look for the hero story in things you watch. And I'll see you next time. Take care.